Let's start.
Me gustaría darles la
I would like
bienvenida
to
a todas las
welcome
personas
all
conectadas a
the
nuestro
people who
webinario
have joined
titulado
to
Ondas de
our
Cambio,
webinar called
acciones locales de la
um,
juventud en
Ripples
pro
of
de
Change,
comunidades
Youth Local
resilientes,
Action for
el
Resilient
cual forma parte
Communities,
de una serie de
which is part
webinarios de la
of a
Semana de
series of
Participación
webinars
Juvenil.
of
Mi
the
nombre es Karina Morales y soy
Youth
parte del equipo de grupos
Engagement Week. My name
consultivos y
is
participación
Karina
pública en la
Morales.
Comisión
I
para la
am
Cooperación
assistant of the
Ambiental.
advisory group and
Antes de
public
comenzar,
participation
les invito a
directorate
renombrarse
of
con los
the
pronombres que
Commission for
deseen en uso.
Environmental Cooperation.
Durante el
Please, before we
webinario, el
start,
chat estará a su
please
disposición.
rename yourself
Sin
and use
embargo,
your
les
pronoun.
pedimos
Uh,
amablemente
Please,
hagan
we
sus
will kindly
preguntas en la
ask to
sección de
ask the
preguntas y
questions in the
respuestas en
Q&A
la
box
barra
on the
inferior de su
bottom of
pantalla.
your screen.
Antes de empezar,
Before
les
we
pido que
start,
rápidamente respondan a
please
la pregunta que se
answer
muestra en sus
the poll
pantallas,
that you can
las
see on
cuales
your
pide
screen.
describir
Please
resiliencia comunitaria en pocas palabras.
describe
Ahora le doy la
community
palabra a nuestra
resilience in very few
facilitadora,
words.
Ana
Now I'm going
Valeria.
to pass the floor
Gracias.
to Ana Valeria, our facilitator.
Well, I think that I'm going to do without my presentation slide, but welcome everyone. Thank you so very much for sharing that for
We
me.
see your presentation.
Well, my name is Ana Valeria Medina, and I am welcoming you to the Commission for Environmental Cooperation's Youth Engagement Week webinar, Ripples of Change, Youth Local Action for Resilient Communities. The Secretariat of the CEC is situated on the unceded traditional territory of the Kanyen'kehá:ka, also known as the Mohawk Nation. At the CEC, we recognize and respect Indigenous peoples as the traditional custodians of the lands and waters, and that we may refer to as Turtle Island or North America. As each of you join us from the different locations, we invite you to take a moment to reflect on and honor the First Nations on whose territories you are situated. Thank you so very much for sharing my slide, as you can see. And once again, my name is Ana Valeria Medina. I am really happy to be facilitating this awesome webinar. I am an environmental sciences engineer. I also hold a master's in natural resources management. And right now I am working on environmental communication and education, most recently in Pocono Environmental Education, PEAK. This is environmental center that is located within the Delaware Water Gap. This is a national recreational area from the United States in Pennsylvania. And here we deliver environmental education programs such as watersheds, sustainability. We also do interpretative hikes so people from all ages, especially youth, can connect with these topics. And I have seen firsthand how the youth has this energy, this motivation to be in the first line of community resilience and work. So that's why I really wanted to be part of this awesome webinar. So I hope that you enjoy it, and I am going to pass the microphone to Julie. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Karina and Ana Valeria. I'm going to continue in French for interpretation to know. Bonjour à toutes et tous. Bonjour tout le monde. Je suis ravie de vous voir.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to see you all. My name is Julie, and I am responsible for the outreach, partnership, and youth engagement at the Commission for Environmental Cooperation. And for the people that are participating and have not known me, the Commission for Environmental Cooperation is an intergovernment organization that gathers Canada with Environmental Canada, Mexico, Semanat, and the US EPA. It was created 30 years ago thanks to the environmental agreements, and our task is to favor the collaboration among the three countries, the civil society, and the youth, specifically on common environmental issues. And this the web. This is the webinar's topic, the youth engagement. Michael is going to talk about resilience. And in the commission, we have been working with the youth for many years, and we have a strategy, and we wanted to institutionalize the youth in the commission because the youth is essential to build a long-lasting future and sustainable future. And these webinars are part of the strategy, the engagement, or the youth engagement in this commission. This is the webinar that helps us put the youth at the
qui
front,
propose des
give
actions pour la
the
protection de
youth a
l'environnement et des
platform,
communautés.
and
Donc
show
j'espère que
the
bah,
organizations
avec
that
vous
are
aujourd'hui, on
created
va
by
bah,
the
créer un
youth.
réseau, on va
So
apprendre, on
I
va se laisser inspirer, on
believe
va
that
échanger
together we
et
will
puis imaginer des
inspire
solutions ensemble
all of
pour la protection de
you and
l'environnement
imagine
la
joint
résilience communautaire. Donc je
solutions
vous
to
remercie beaucoup
protect our
de participer
environment.
à ce
Thank you
webinaire
very much
et à cette troisième
for
édition du Journée d'engagement
being
jeunesse, qui est
in
ce troisième
this
et dernier
webinar in the
webinaire
third session of
de
the
cette
Youth
semaine, de cette journée
Engagement
de
Week, which
l'engagement.
is the third
Je vais
and
demander à ma
last
collègue Éléonore
webinar
de
of
partager les
this
résultats du premier
week.
sondage
And I'm
pour
going
voir
to
un peu
ask Eleanor
comment vous avez
to
répondu à cette
show
question.
us the first poll
Alors,
results to see
je
how
laisse
you answered to
afficher.
this question.
Alors, la question
Well,
était
great.
qu'est-ce que la
Here we
résilience
have
communautaire par vous en quelques
the
mots?
question,
Donc, c'est
what is
local en
community
anglais, local
resilience in a few
recovery,
words?
environmental justice,
So here we can see
organisation
in
sociale,
English, in French,
problemas,
environmental justice,
grassroots, the
in
ability to adapt and thrive
problems,
under changing
the
conditions,
ability
memory,
to adapt
définir, soluciones,
in changing
identificar.
conditions, under changing
Merci à toutes et tous
conditions,
pour contribuer. N'hésitez pas à continuer à
solutions,
contribuer, à faire un
identifying
beau
issues
word
and
cloud, comme on dit en
providing
anglais,
solutions. Please
qui
continue
sera affiché
contributing and
sur notre
please
site web
continue
à la
putting
fin
this in the
des
word cloud.
webinaires. Puis
And
merci pour
at
votre
the end of
participation
the
encore. Je vais
webinars,
laisser
we're
maintenant la
going to
parole à
present
Anna
this
Valeria.
participation.
Non, oui, et
Now I'm
Michaela, en
going
fait, qui
to
va nous
pass
parler
the
de
floor
résilience communautaire.
to Ana Valeria and
Merci.
Micaela so they can talk about community resilience. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Julie. My name is Micaela Martinez, and I'm the Community Resilience Officer at the CEC. My pronouns are she, her. And so I would just like to take a few minutes to welcome you all and also to share our community resilience work here at the CEC. So one thing I'm really excited to talk about today is a new community resilience initiative that is currently in the early planning stages. So this is a project that the CEC is launching under the guidance of our Joint Public Advisory Committee. And so this is a 3-country initiative that is really seeking to foster local environmental leadership, which is very much in line with the topic here today as part of the Youth Engagement Week. And so what we would like to do is to be able to scale up and replicate innovative local solutions to environmental challenges. And so one thing that the CEC has observed over the years through our grant programs and community initiatives, such as our youth work, our Communities for Environmental Justice initiative, our community air monitoring projects, is that communities have lots of amazing, innovative solutions to big challenges. And just to give you some of the examples that we've seen from communities that have worked with the CEC, in North Carolina, a community group is collecting spider webs to test for air pollutants that stick to these webs. In Mexico, a community group developed a rainwater capture system that they were actually able to bring up to Canada and share with the Nipissing First Nation in Ontario. And in Boston, a community group is transforming empty lots that are no longer used and turning them into urban food forests so that they can simultaneously address extreme heat in Boston, as well as having those trees doing carbon capture and storage, and address local issues of food insecurity. So these are just 3 innovative local solutions driven by local community leadership of the many that we've seen that have come out of communities that collaborate with the CEC. So with our new Community Resilience Initiative, we really hope to be able to connect communities across North America that are experiencing similar challenges so that they can share the innovative solutions that they've developed locally and tested so that these solutions can be replicated and scaled across the continent. And so we hope to see more tri-national collaborations, including those with youth groups that we'll be talking about later today. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Ana Valeria to discuss today's webinar.
Thank you so very much for that, Micaela. I just want to start this conversation by talking a little bit about community resilience, which is the topic that is bringing us here today. And the topic of this webinar is Ripples of Change, Local Action for Resilient Communities. And I would like to talk a little bit about the name that was inspired. If you have ever watched Pocahontas, there is this iconic scene of Mother Willow or Grandmother Willow, I believe, which is basically a talking tree, which is a character of this movie, in which she is explaining how ripples are these actions, little actions that start small, but then they become bigger and they reach other places, but someone has to start it. And I believe that youth has the power of starting these ripples from local action to global, even global impacts, positive impacts. So to talk a little bit about community resilience, and I am going to ask Vale if you can pass to the second slide, please. I would like to define what community resilience is and the definition that we have in each one of the countries of the participating countries of the CEC. So the United States defines community resilience as minimizing environmental risks associated with chronic and acute extreme events, quickly returning critical environmental and ecological services to functionality to serve community needs after events, while applying learning to reduce community vulnerabilities and risks to future incidents. This is from the Environmental Protection Agency. Now, in the side of Canada, they say that a resilient community works together to reduce disaster risks and get prepared for all types of emergencies. This means adapting, responding, and recovering together. This is from the National Adaptation Strategy. And now Mexico defines community resilience as strengthening local capacities in comprehensive disaster risk management by creating community committees trained to anticipate, prevent, prepare for, face, and recover from hazards in a coordinated, organized, and supportive manner. This definition was acquired by the National Strategy for Resilient Communities. I believe that in these times, when we are facing the devastating impacts of climate change, to make sure that our communities are resilient is something key and crucial. So I will ask you, Vale, if you can pass to the next slide. In here, I just included some pictures because working as youth in community resilience won't look the same every time. It can look like someone just raising our voice, talking about the issues. Sometimes we think that talking about these issues is not actually action, but actually it is the first line of making sure we are sharing our messages, what we believe in, by educating other people, by also being activists, and also by participating in these actual initiatives to adapt to these climate change impacts like reforestation and such. We can see some groups of Florida on the right talking about these issues, some reforestation groups from Mexico, and some activists from Canada. So instead of talking more about examples, we have the perfect examples today. And I would like to share a little bit about our speakers. First of all, I would like to mention that our event will be different talks. We're going to have each speaker talking. Then we will have about 2 minutes to ask a specific question to this speaker. And at the end, we will have about 10 minutes to ask questions to all of the speakers. So I was wondering if we can have the speakers up so we can talk about each one of them. Thank you so very much. So for this awesome webinar, we have the participation of 3 amazing speakers. We have Alisa O'Brien. She is joining from Canada. Specifically, she works in Montreal and Quebec. She's from FES, which is Finance, Engage, Sustain. And I really admire Alisa because she's not only youth participating in community resilience, but she supports and provides mentorship to other youth-led groups. When I asked her why she wanted to participate in this event, she said that she would like to connect with the counterparts, which are Mexico and also America, that she wants to share her experiences so everyone can learn a little bit about her. And also she would like to showcase the incredible work that is being done in Canada with youth-led climate groups. Then we have from Mexico, Mariana Dávalos, and we have Alan Calzada. They are joining us from Biznaga ACE. And something that caught my attention of this group is this awesome holistic, trust-based methodology that they do to protect natural areas. When I asked them why they wanted to participate, they told me that they've been following the CC for a while and they would like to connect with other youth from North America. They also mentioned that this is a source of inspiration for them and for other youth, and they would like to showcase what it's been done in Biznaga. And last but not least, we have Christopher Dignarin. He's from Baltimore City, from the US. And I was surprised about Chris's work because he's not only working for community resilience from the environmental sector, but he's also solving a great issue of lack of food in the community. So he's addressing food waste. And when I asked him why he wanted to participate, he told me that he believes in the great power that youth has in finding solutions or in climate resilience if they are given the right platform and the right tools. I also like that he mentioned that he would like to give them mentorship that he would like to have or he would have liked to have when he was younger. So we have these awesome speakers. As I told you, we're going to have some time to ask a question at the end of each presentation, and at the end of the 3 presentations, 10 minutes for Q&A. I'm going to ask you to choose or to click on the bottom of Q&A if you want to ask a question, and we are going to make sure of reading it to our awesome speakers. So if Karina, if you can present, I'm going to give you the microphone to you before we start. Thank you.
Gracias, Ana Valeria, por esa introducción. Y bueno, ahora los invitamos y las invitamos
Thank you
a
for that
participar
introduction,
en
Ana
nuestra
Valeria. So
siguiente
now,
encuesta,
first, we would like to
la
invite
cual
everyone to
es
take part in our
¿qué es
next
lo que
poll,
más te
Slido.
inspira a actuar
And the
por la
question is, what
resiliencia
inspires you the
comunitaria?
most to take action for community resilience?
Entonces pueden votar por la opción que
You can
prefieran.
vote for your preferred option.
Muy bien, en lo que recibimos sus
Well,
respuestas,
as
le daré
your
la
answers
palabra
are
de nuevo a
coming
Ana
in,
Valeria y
I will give the
regresamos más
floor
tarde
back to
para
Ana
ver quiénes
Valeria
han
and we'll
contestado.
return later to look at your answers.
Thank you, Karina. Well, we're going to start with Alisa soon. I want to remind you that we are going to be answering all of our questions in the Q&A box to make sure that they are read later to our speakers. Also, I want to remind you that we have interpretation services, and also don't worry, you don't have to translate the questions or anything like that. We are going to make sure to translate it for our speakers. And while we are waiting, I just want to make sure everyone finds the interpretation in the bar that is down. You can find a little icon of a globe and choose the language of your preference. So I just want to make sure, Karina, if we are going to go ahead in a couple of minutes or after the presentations with the poll results.
Gracias, Ana Valeria. Me parece que ya tenemos bastantes
Thank you.
resultados, entonces
We seem to
vamos
have
a
received
compartirles la
quite a lot of
pantalla.
answers by now, so we
Como
will share
pueden
that
ver,
screen with everyone.
la respuesta más popular
As you
es
can see,
tomar
our most
medidas para
popular
proteger los
answer was
ecosistemas de
taking
los
action
impactos
to protect the
climáticos.
ecosystems
La
from
segunda
climate
respuesta
impacts.
es apoyar a
Second
las comunidades vulnerables
is
o en
supporting
riesgo.
vulnerable or
Después
at-risk
tenemos
communities,
conectar y
followed
colaborar con
by
otras
connecting and
personas.
collaborating with
Y
other
por
people,
último,
and
desarrollar nuevas
finally,
habilidades
building new
y crecer
skills and
personalmente.
growing personally.
Gracias.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Karina. Thank you for all of the insights and everything that you guys are sharing. And now we're going to start with our first speaker. We're doing this alphabetically. So we're going to start with Canada with awesome Alisa Obrand. So anytime, Alisa, you are ready, you can go ahead and share your slides. As I mentioned before, Alisa, she is from FES and she is part of the youth community, but she's also working, helping other youth led groups. And we're going to learn a lot about her lessons learned as a member of the youth community, but also helping and mentoring other youth. So, Alisa, anytime you're ready, please let me know.
Yeah, great. I will share my screen. Don't know if that worked. 1 second. Sorry. Can everyone see if I share it like this? Is that okay? So, okay, I'm gonna go ahead. Okay, I see some thumbs up, so that's good. Yes, hello everyone. My name is Alyssa Obrand, and I'm from the organization called Finance Engage Sustain. We called ourselves FES. And we are based all across Canada. So we're a completely youth-led organization that is based everywhere across Canada. And today I'll tell you a little bit about what we do as an organization that is both youth-led and youth-serving, and how we are focusing on building up youth leadership for community resilience and climate resilience across the country. So we are as I mentioned, a completely youth-led and youth-serving organization. This means that everyone who works at FES is under the age of 30 or 30 and under. And this is our target group that we are also serving as an organization. As an organization, our mission is to empower youth to change lifestyles, to amplify powerful youth projects that are creating a sustainable future. And we do this by providing training, resources, and other types of support services to see that these youth-led projects and these leaders are growing and they can be sustained across the country. We are doing this because we believe that this is truly the last generation that can enact meaningful solutions towards solving climate change. So we want to direct funding and resources into the hands of those who can actually make the most change and make the biggest difference, which is the youth who are currently fighting for a climate resilient Canada, and to everyone here, obviously, climate resilient communities in every single country. So I'll share a little bit about how we kind of came to be as an organization, of what we're doing now and just our journey along the way. And we've always been a youth organization, even though we started back in 2012. And we've just had a few different leaders along the way and a few different organizational transitions to maintain that we are always a youth-led organization. So we started off in 2012, actually. And at that time, our founder was driving across the country, delivering workshops to young leaders that he met because he wanted to teach them about how to take action on the SDGs. And he was really interested in the UN. You know, the UN is really, where we see change happening, is where we see things happening. But he slowly began to kind of reflect as he was doing this, that maybe that this kind of big body of the UN isn't really the way to do this. And how could we actually look at what's happening locally? How could we actually look at what's happening in communities? So he was driving across the country for about 4 years. He delivered workshops to 87,000 students, almost 88,000 students across the whole country in 421 schools in 300 towns, teaching them about how to take action on climate in your own community. What does it mean? For example, what are the sustainable development goals? How can you take action in a way that's tying together cost of living, that's tying together health, and all of these different, intersecting issues around climate? And not only did he deliver these trainings and these workshops, but he also helped support direct action projects. So from the trainings that he was delivering, he was helping teach young people how to take action. And this is some examples of some of the projects that emerged from these workshops that he did. And keep in mind, at this time, Steve, who's the founder of our organization, he was 19 or 20 years old when he was doing this. So he was very, very young as well, teaching these other young people how to take action and really doing this mentorship. So we can see a couple of the projects that came as a result of him driving across these towns, students tackling fishing line pollution up in northern communities. So just a lot of different things in so many different provinces and areas of the country. And then, as an organization, we began to reflect on the program itself because, this is what it means to be delivering impactful programming, and especially youth-tailored work means that you're constantly reflecting on what are the needs that we're actually trying to reach and what are the needs that we're meeting. So asking what's actually the most impactful part of this program that we're doing, of this work, and realizing that it's actually these action projects that are coming out of it. So we learned really kind of after a little bit of time that young people know how to take action. They have the ideas, they know what the problems are in their communities. They don't really need someone coming in to teach them about this. And they're ambitious, they have the ideas, they have the goals, and they have the strategies. But the big problem is that there's not enough resources. So that's kind of where our organization FES started moving into its next phase. So with these young people have the ideas, they have the ambition, but how can we deliver the resources so that they're actually able to take action on these community ideas and actually build what they need to build and do what they want to do? And also asking ourselves kind of as an organization, why is FES as a youth organization specifically well positioned to build this program and fill this gap that we're seeing? Asking ourselves also, why is philanthropy not meeting this need? There's a need for funding directly into these small communities all across the country. Where is the money from, philanthropy going if it's not going here? And also trying to think about what are the conditions on the ground and in these communities that FES is acting in response to. So that's kind of when we decided to step back and actually look at the gap that's happening here. So realizing that the philanthropic landscape is simply not compatible with youth community work. So traditional philanthropic models are struggling to adequately support youth leadership because they're unable to capture the dynamic and the innovative spirit of young people's solutions, which I know that we're going to hear a couple of these examples of kind of these innovative solutions just afterwards, which I'm very excited about. And emerging leaders have described the landscape of funding that they experience as very tiny, sporadic, and unsustainable. And that's because funders have also acknowledged that there are two difficult points for them to support youth in communities, which is that the solutions can be difficult to identify when they're in rural and remote communities, unless you're already connected to these grassroots communities and you're able to invest the time and capacity to locate those young leaders. So that's one issue that philanthropy has of why they're not, supporting these types of projects. And another one is that providing funding at these smaller scales while also offering the capacity development in order to scale these ideas and these projects, it takes a lot of work. So they're not able to do these kinds of things. For a little bit of context of some, another piece of the problem in Canada, and I think that this probably resonates globally as well. But 28% of Canada's population is between the ages of 18 to 35, and yet less than 1% of philanthropic dollars are supporting youth-led ideas and youth-led projects in Canada. Also, we have 2/3 of youth who are not paid for their community work. So that means that young people, and I think this is definitely a global problem, but young people who are trying to support their community in community-led action are often not being paid for their work. This means they have to take on multiple jobs in order to support the work that they're trying to do for their community. And this problem is significantly exacerbated for Black, Indigenous, and racialized youth. And also we have 42% of youth who are currently civically engaged, yet 74% of them we know that they want to be because, but they can't because of that barrier of not having the resources to do it. So this means that conventional funding is, the requirements are too high for community leaders, and underfunding then in the youth space is leading to this lack of sustainability and stability for jobs for young people, leading them to leave the sector altogether and significantly depleting the community climate space of talented, ambitious young leaders. So what did FES come in and try to do? Well, we realized that young people, they need to be funded, they need to be engaged, and they need to be sustained. So we created our theory of change around wanting to see that the Canadian climate movement will be successfully implementing mitigation and adaptation strategies for a climate resilient Canada directly through the influence and action of youth leaders. Our goal is to see that this is happening by 2030. And we are doing this by trying to amplify youth voices that are working on climate, and we're connecting generations of and sectors that are working on climate together to be able to scale climate and community solutions. So we want to see that there's a strong and sustainable youth-led climate movement that's being formed and is being sustained. To think about why exactly we're supporting young people, because this is an important question to ask and to constantly be discussing. What exactly are young people doing in their communities that is creating such a change? What actually is the impact when we put young leaders at the helm of being able to lead in their communities and create change? We found through, this was after a few years of funding youth and of working with youth, that we found that they're specifically good, I should say we are specifically good at doing three things through the projects that we were funding. So the first of these was catalyzing culture shifts. The second is cultivating political will and, driving the public opinion. And the third is pressuring for societal changes. So all of these types of things through small community projects and starting these at a local level can really have that ripple effect and really build up to create systemic change. For example, one project that we funded over at FES is a project that's based in Edmonton, Alberta, and we provided $10,000 to a very small community-led group of 5 young people, and they were able to build up community support and lobby against their local government. And eventually, they got them to pledge $100 million to build sustainable bike infrastructure for bike lanes and bike paths all across the city. And so that's just like an example of, I think how you can bring all three of these things together and actually the true force and true power that young people do have when they're working together. So a little bit, that's kind of the journey that we took to get to where we are now and why exactly we're doing what we're doing. So as I mentioned, at FES, our goals are to really build up and support the entire youth-led climate sector of Canada and the entire youth-led community climate sector specifically in Canada. So we want to see that young climate leaders in different communities of Canada, specifically rural, remote, Indigenous communities, are having the resources, have access to the resources that they need to carry out their ideas and make changes in their communities. But more so than that, they're also being connected to other leaders and building that network where they can scale their ideas and they can learn from each other. So making sure that everyone in Canada and all these leaders are somehow connected and learning from one another and scaling their ideas together. So we're doing this in 3 different ways. The first one is that we are directly increasing funding to youth-led climate action, so trying to increase the finance portion of the amount of money that's going towards supporting these ideas, because none of this would be able to happen if people don't have access to the resources they need. Young people need to be paid for their community work. I mean, everyone needs to be paid for community work, and this is a really big problem of seeing that people are not adequately paid for this, which means that they're not able to give it the proper time and care that it needs by having to balance with what else they're doing. Everyone needs to pay rent at the end of the day. Everyone needs to buy food. And so being able to actually, have a living wage for doing community work is one of our big goals. The second one is to be able to engage as many Canadians as we can through the voice of youth. So building power and community for youth climate action. So trying to, as I mentioned, kind of build this ecosystem of collaborators across climate and trying to get a lot of people, a bit more aware of the youth climate and community work that's actually taking place in Canada and getting a lot more people engaged and having young people lead on this climate conversation that's happening in Canada. And the final one, as I've mentioned already as well, is just to sustain young leaders. There's a really big issue when it comes to resilience and burnout of climate leaders and community leaders, especially youth. And this comes from the severe lack of resources. So if they're properly resourced with the funding, the network, and the other support services, ideally we can see them have a long, beautiful career of scaling climate and community solutions. And I'll just show this quickly, but we have 5 different granting streams. So we really focus on trying to provide support at all different levels of where a project may be. Some of our grants are just $5,000, and the largest ones we've offered a fellowship of up to $100,000 per year, to see young people really being able to go full force and building their projects that they're passionate about, and seeing what they can actually do if they have the proper resources to build on their ideas. So just showing a little bit about where we've been, but we have committed $2.7 million so far since 2021 to youth-led solutions. That's 197 youth-led climate projects that we've supported all across Canada. And we've helped leverage from philanthropy an additional 5 million Canadian dollars to the ecosystem. Um, on my last note here before I finish, I just want to have a little kind of key takeaway about what youth leadership looks like and why youth leadership is important. Youth leadership is very hard. Just you're expected to, represent all of youth. You're expected to know everything, and also you need to bring who you are as a young person. And you need to be able to show that you're learning as you go. And a big part of that is knowing that youth leadership means you have to fail forward. We're all young here. We don't have, like 30 years of experience, but that's exactly why we're good at what we're trying to do. And just trying to remember that, yeah, that's the beauty of youth leadership, is that we're learning from everything as we go, and we're, building on brand new ideas and brand new perspectives. And that's a big part of what we do at FES. Is we have an entirely youth-led team, and we're really, really passionate about the fact that our team represents the constituents that we are serving. So youth priorities are woven into our organization because of our representation. So we have a team that's entirely 30 and under, because that's exactly who we're trying to service in the community, and making sure that we're really in touch with the needs of the communities that we're trying to serve. So an important note, I think, just about youth leadership in general, and also just community leadership, is you want the people who you're trying to serve to actually be making the decisions, and not just making the decisions on like an advisory committee, but really, really woven into the fabric of, the group and the organization that is doing the work. So that's a big principle of what we're doing here at FES. And just this is the team behind it. And thank you so much for listening. And I guess I will pass it back to Anna Valeria.
Thank you, Alisa. Thank you so very much for taking the time to talk a little bit more about FES. For anyone who wants to learn more about Alisa, here we have her contact information. But Alisa, before letting you go, well, you're going to stay with us, but I have one question from one participant, if that's okay. And the question says, have you noticed a difference between the way youth takes climate action in Canada and places in Latin America or the global South?
I think, to be honest, I haven't witnessed that much of the work being done in Latin America and the global South. And I apologize for that. But I will say of what's happening in Canada is there's a huge issue of underfunding, which is very difficult because we don't get any portion of international funding up in Canada. We tend to get lumped in with the USA, and people think a lot of the funds go there, but they don't. None of it does. So I will say that that's something that's pretty unique to the Canadian ecosystem, is that we have the same amount of charities per capita as for example the US does, and like South America does, but we have about 1/3 of the funding that, like proportionally speaking, that the US does. So I know that that's one of like the most unique things about the way that Canadian leaders and climate leaders are operating in, is just this like severe underfunding. And but there's also this perception, I think, that we have, a lot of the resources that like maybe the Americans do, but we don't. So I'll just share that's maybe that's one unique thing. But I think that when it comes to community climate action, I think that I've seen a lot of similarities from what I've seen of like the Canadian leaders and the American leaders and the leaders that we have like in Latin America as well. And I think there's always a lot more in common than we think.
Exactly. Thank you so very much, Alisa. And actually, these spaces are to learn more about how things work in all of these three countries. So thank you so very much. And everyone, please remember that we are going to have a more time to ask Alisa some questions, so you can write them down and then ask them in the using the Q&A button. So thank you so very much, Alisa. And now we have our second speaker from Mexico. We're going to go with Biznaga Ace. We have Mariana Dávalos, and we have Alan Calzada. They are from San Luis Potosí in Mexico, and they have an awesome approach of protected natural areas, but using a different way of trust-based approach. So anytime you guys are ready, cuando ustedes chicos, Mariana y Alan, estén
Please
listos,
let me know when you're ready, guys,
pueden compartir sus
and you can
slides, su
start sharing
presentación.
your slides and your
So
presentation.
we're just gonna wait to have the presentation, and I am going to give the word to them. This is also organization that is organized by the youth for these natural protection areas. I just want to remind everyone, if you want to ask any questions, we are going to use the Q&A button. Y Mariana, el micrófono es todo tuyo. Bienvenidos.
To you. The floor is all yours, Mariana. Welcome.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you
¿Me
so
pueden
much.
avisar nada más si ya está
Just
lista
let
la
me know
presentación?
if you can see my presentation now. Yes, we can.
Muchas gracias, Vale.
Thank you so
Pues
much,
queremos
Vale.
agradecer mucho por
So
la
we would like
invitación,
to thank
porque nos hayan
this
elegido como
EC for the
representantes de
invitation and
México.
for having been
Estamos
selected
muy
as
contentos
representatives
y
from
pues me
Mexico.
presento,
We are very
nos
happy. Let
presento.
me
Yo soy Mariana Dávalos
introduce
Navarro
ourselves. My name is
y está
Mariana
aquí Alan
Avalos Navarro,
Calzada y
and
somos
we have
parte de una
Alan
asociación
Calzada.
civil
We are part of a
llamada
civil
Biznaga,
organization
Promoción y
called
Gestión de Áreas Naturales
Biznaga,
Protegidas, y hoy les vamos a
Promoción
hablar de
of
una parte
the
muy grande de nuestro
áreas
trabajo.
naturales
En
protegidas.
México son
We're going
las
to talk
áreas destinadas
about
voluntariamente a la conservación. Aquí
voluntarily
pues van a ver las diapositivas
assigned
con ayuda del
areas
SCA,
for
pues hicimos
conservation
una
purposes.
traducción para todos.
This is translation. These
Entonces
slides have
quiero
been translated
empezar pues
into the
presentándonos,
three
¿no?
languages. So
Nosotros,
let
les
me
decía, somos una
introduce
asociación que se
myself.
llama San Luis
We
Potosí.
are
Biznaga, Promoción y
a
Gestión de Áreas
non-profit
Naturales Protegidas.
organization located in San Luis
Inicialmente
Potosí,
nosotros
Biznaga AC.
empezamos
We started
como bueno, somos amigos que
I
egresamos
mean,
de la carrera
we
de
were
biología juntos. Aquí también en
friends
la
that
foto estoy yo, somos
studied
Juan Carlos
together
Hidalgo, está
biology.
mi amigo y mi
I
colega
have
Benito
my
y Emiliano.
Benito and Emiliano
Entonces,
next to
nosotros
me.
somos una
We
organización que se
are
encuentra en San
an
Luis Potosí.
organization that was
Pongo
founded
aquí el
by
mapa de
us.
México para
This
pues,
our
los que no
organization is
conozcan. San Luis
located
Potosí
in
es
San
ese
Luis Potosí.
pedacito que se ve en
San
azul
Luis
que tiene forma de
Potosí
perrito,
is
tiene forma de
that
terrier.
um,
Entonces,
the blue
nosotros
region.
ahora sí que era un chiste
Um,
interno que decíamos que
it's
íbamos a hacer un grupo
like a
de
terrier
rock and roll,
dog. So
pero lo
we were
agarramos para
going
el nombre de nuestra
to
asociación civil.
create
Y
rock and
van a
roll
ver que nos llamamos
band
Promoción y
called
Gestión de
Biznaga,
Áreas
but
Naturales
we ended up
Protegidas, porque
creating
trabajamos en dos
a
modalidades,
non-profit
lo que es la
organization.
promoción y lo que
We
es la
work
gestión.
for
Hoy vamos a hablar un
promotion
poquito más de la
and for
promoción, pero también me atrevo a contarles un poquito de la gestión.
managing the
Cuando hablamos de promoción, hablamos
naturally
de
protected
establecer áreas
areas.
naturales
So we want to
nuevas, ¿sí? ¿Por qué?
establish
Porque nuestra
new
principal área de
natural
trabajo es
protected
aumentar la
areas because
cobertura
we want to
protegida de
increase
México. Queremos que
the
haya más
protected
parques
coverage
estén
in Mexico.
protegidos
We want
y que
more
tenga una
areas to be
protección no solo en
protected in
papel,
Mexico,
sino una
not
protección
protected
real, con
in
acciones, ¿no? Que
documents,
no se
but
queden
with
solamente decretos, sino
actions.
que haya
We
acciones
don't
que
want
estén
it to
respaldando
just have
ese
a
decreto.
decree,
Pero
but we
también
want a
pues México
decree with
tiene
actions
una red
involved.
grande de
Mexico
áreas
has a
protegidas
huge
federales
network of federal
que
protected
la
areas,
verdad no es tan
and they
grande como
are
quisiéramos. Hay unos
not
países que
as
tienen muchísimas
large
más
as we would
cobertura
like
de
this region
protección
to be.
federal.
There are
Groenlandia,
more
Venezuela, por ejemplo, son
countries
líderes en eso.
with
Pero en
more
las que ya
federal
están
protected
establecidas,
areas
nosotros
like Greenland or
actuamos como un
Venezuela.
tipo de
We
consultores
are
para que se hagan
consultants
estrategias,
for the
como sugerencias de
creation
estrategias
of
y parte
strategies,
como de
and
asesores en esas áreas. ¿Sí?
we are consultants in those
Le cedo la palabra a mi
areas.
compañero Alan.
Now I'm going to pass the floor
Gracias,
to
para
Alan
poder darles una
in
introducción
order to give
a
you
las áreas
an
distribuidas
introduction
voluntariamente para la
to the
conservación. Tenemos que hablar de los territorios de vida.
voluntarily
Y bueno, los
assigned
territorios de vida, también llamados
areas
TICA
for
por sus siglas en español,
conservation. We, these are territories preserved by indigenous communities and groups who retain governance of the resources. They need to have a close connection with a territory, and that community remains the governance of the resources, and they make the decisions related to their territories, and their activities improve social and environmental well-being. The territories of life are very, very diverse, in fact. At least one-fifth of the planet is protected by local and indigenous communities who still use traditional conservation knowledge. This size is comparable with the African continent, and it is important to mention that nobody knows how many territories of life there are in the world. We need more efforts to learn more about these territories and their communities.
Bueno, entonces, en base a lo que mencionaba
Based
Alan,
on
sobre el Observatorio
what
de Vida,
Alan
lo queremos
mentioned on
contextualizar al
territories of
territorio
life, we
mexicano
would like to
y
now
pues les voy a tener que comentar un poquito de
go
la
to
historia de México para esto,
Mexico. Let me
porque
tell you a little
México
bit about
en su mayoría,
Mexico's history
les pongo
and
una cifra,
its
dice el
territory.
59, casi el 60% del
59,
país
almost
es de
60% of that
propiedad
country
social. Y aquí van a ver
is
su mapa,
social
tenemos
property.
manchas
And
tanto
here we
amarillas
can
como
see
rojas en un área gran parte
yellow
del país,
and
la
red
mayoría, ¿no?
colored
¿Por qué?
coded
Porque tenemos
in
una
most
figura
of the
importante en
country.
México,
Why? Because
perdón,
we
que
have
son los ejidos.
a figure
Los
in
ejidos
Mexico
fueron
called
un producto
ejidos.
de la Revolución Mexicana
Ejidos
hace más de 100
were
años.
a
Hubo una
product from
reforma a la
the
ley
Mexican
agraria y
Revolution. There
surge
was a
este tipo
reform
de
to the
propiedad,
Agricultural Act, and
que es una
we
propiedad
have this
comunitaria.
concept
Existen unas personas que son
of
los ejidatarios
ownership
y
of
lo que se
land.
asegura es
The
que la
communities
tierra,
own the
por lo que la
land,
tierra sea
and these
uso de
are
todos
called
y
ejidos.
no le
The
pertenezca a
ejidos
solo una persona
belong
para que
to
no
the
haya
whole community,
intereses
not to a
personales que se
specific
venda a cierta
individual.
persona,
So
que
the
se le quite a
territories
alguien,
are
porque
not
el pueblo
sold
mexicano siempre ha sido
to
muy
other
protector de sus tierras, ¿sí?
individuals.
Luego, seguido
The
a esto, tenemos que
Mexican
casi el
people have always been
40%
very
del
uh,
territorio mexicano es propiedad privada
protective of
y nada
their
más
land.
como el 1% es propiedad del
Just
Estado, o sea, le pertenece a
1%
la
is
federación, le
owned
pertenece al
by
gobierno.
the state, by
Entonces,
the
¿qué
government.
significa? Les
40%
mencionaba
is
que México ya tiene una red
private
amplia de
property.
áreas
I
naturales
told you
protegidas.
that
Tenemos
there
más de
is a
200.
wide
Entonces,
network of
¿qué significa?
natural
Que esas
protected
200
areas. We
áreas
have
federales,
over
la mayoría no están
1,200.
en
Most
territorio que
of them are
le
not
pertenece a
in
la nación. La mayoría están
territories
en
owned by
ejidos, en
the
comunidades.
government. They are located
Entonces,
in
aquí hay
ejidos
una
and
posible
communities.
problemática, ¿sí?
So there's an
Porque lo hemos visto en las historias de las áreas
issue
naturales
here, and
protegidas
we have
en el
seen
mundo, no solo en
this
México.
in
Por
natural
ejemplo,
protected
existe el caso
areas
muy
in the
famoso de
world and
Yellowstone,
in Mexico. There is
donde
a
al
case
inicio,
in
cuando se
Yellowstone
decretó el
where
área, lo que se
when
hizo
this
fue
area was decreed a
sacar
natural
a la
protected
población
area,
indígena que
the
ya habitaba el
indigenous
área,
population was
¿sí? Entonces,
taken
lo que
away
se está haciendo
from
es que se está
their land.
imponiendo la conservación,
So we
¿sí?
are imposing
Entonces, claro que
the
la situación ha mejorado en el
conservation.
presente, pero todavía
This
tenemos conflictos de la gente
is
con las
not
áreas naturales
happening
protegidas,
anymore,
porque
but
nadie
there are
quiere que
still
vayas a su
conflicts with
casa, a
natural
su
protected
territorio y le
areas
digan qué
because no
puede o no
one
puede hacer cuando es
wants
algo
to
que ha hecho por miles
someone
de años
else
y que
to tell
necesita para
you
subsistir.
what to do
Entonces,
regarding your territory,
de
right?
aquí salen lo que
So
son las áreas destinadas
here
voluntariamente a
we
la
have
conservación. El nombre es
areas
el nombre legal oficial que se
voluntarily
le da en México.
designated
También las
for
conocemos como
conservation.
ADBCs para no
We
decir pues
call them
toda la frase grande.
ADVCs for its
Entonces,
acronym in
estas
Spanish.
ADBCs, estas áreas,
These
son un área
ADVCs
natural protegida
are
federal, tiene carácter
federal
federal,
natural
tiene
protected
todas las
areas,
características de un área
and they
federal,
have all the
pero la diferencia es que,
characteristics
como
of
lo
a
dice el nombre,
federal
es
area, but the
voluntaria.
difference is
Ya
that it
sea,
is
puede ser una persona
voluntary.
privada, ¿sí?
It can be
Pero
a
también las
private
comunidades
property
indígenas,
or it
los
can be an
grupos, los
ejido.
ejidos,
The
ellos pueden
First
decidir en
Nations
conjunto,
can
tomando la
decide
decisión en conjunto,
together
hacer
if they
de su
want
territorio un área
to
voluntaria. La
have
diferencia es
an
que
area
ellos van a
voluntarily
decidir dónde la
designated
quieren, qué acciones se va a poder,
for
qué reglamento
conservation.
va a tener. Entonces se
And
les
they
da la
decide the
gobernanza
rules
total a
and
estas
they
personas.
are given the total governance
Me
of
preguntaban
their
cómo
own
se hace
territory.
ese
I was
acercamiento.
asked,
Claro
how
que a una
do you
persona no va a
approach
acceder a
these
tener un área
communities?
voluntaria
A
si
person
no le
will
trae
not
beneficios.
accept
Entonces hay
to
una
have an area
justo el fin de
voluntarily
beneficios.
designated for
Por
conservation
ejemplo,
if there isn't a
tenemos actividades
benefit.
de aprovechamiento
We
sustentable,
have
¿sí?
sustainable use
Y
activities
para que puedan usar esos
so
recursos que
they
tienen de
can
una manera,
use
pues,
the
valga la redundancia, más
resources
sustentable. Blindaje ante
in a more
proyectos,
sustainable
porque
manner.
si algún día
Also
llega el
protection
gobierno y dice yo
against
quiero poner
projects,
una
because
carretera
if the
o llega
government
una
says,
empresa
I
que quiere
want
poner
to
una planta,
create
ellos
a
tienen
road or
un
a highway
decreto que
here or
dice,
a
aquí es un área
company that
natural
wants to
protegida y
create a
no se
plant,
pueden hacer estas
they will
acciones que
have
tú
a
estás
decree
diciendo.
that says this is a natural
Acciones de
protected
mitigación
area
y
and you
adaptación ante el cambio
cannot create a plant
climático,
or a
sobre todo hablamos de
highway
soluciones
here.
basadas en
Also,
naturaleza,
mitigation and
mejor
adaptation to
calidad de
climate
agua, porque se
change
están
with
protegiendo procesos de
nature-based
filtración de
solutions,
agua,
better water
los nacimientos de agua,
quality,
seguridad
and
alimentaria para
food
todas las personas que
security
viven en
for
esa
all the
zona,
persons
un
living
tejido
in
social
that area,
fortalecido porque
strength
están trabajando
a more
en conjunto
strengthened
para tomar las
social
decisiones
fabric
y
because they are
acceso a
making
subsidios que tiene el
decisions
gobierno mexicano
together, and
para que
access
se
to
pueda hacer
government subsidies
monitoreo de
so we
especies,
can monitor
capacitación para los
species,
habitantes,
train
construcción de
the
infraestructura,
population,
aprovechamiento sustentable y
creation
mucho
of
más.
infrastructure, sustainable use, among some of the activities that can take place
Ok,
once they
entiendo,
are
pero
an
un
area
ratito me
voluntarily
gustaría
designated
compartirles
for
el
conservation.
proyecto
Now, we would
actual.
like to tell
Estamos
you
estableciendo
about
una nueva
the
ADBC en
project.
San
We
Nicolás de
have
los Montes.
created
San
a
Nicolás de
new
los Montes está
ADVC
ubicado
in
en la
San
Huasteca
Nicolás de los
Potosina.
Montes.
Y ok, para
San
los que no
Nicolás de
están en
los Montes
México,
is
la Huasteca
located
es una
in the
región
Huasteca Potosina.
ubicada en varios
The
estados
Huasteca
del noreste del país.
Potosina
Se
region is an
caracteriza por
area
un clima tropical,
with a
una gran biodiversidad y
rainforest.
culturas
It's
ricas
a
en historia y
rainforest
tradiciones.
and it
San
has
Nicolás de
lots
los
of
Montes cuenta con
traditions.
todo esto, con
It
una gran
it,
riqueza de
it
especies de
has a
plantas,
great
mamíferos, teniendo en su
variety of
territorio hasta
plants,
6 animales
mammals,
presentes en
and
México
birds.
y siendo considerado
And
sitio AICA, un área
this
importante de
this is
conservación,
an
para la conservación
important
de
area
aves,
for the
teniendo un gran número
conservation of
de
birds.
especies de aves residentes,
They are
migratorias y endémicas.
migratory birds
También
as
es parte
well
del
as
corredor biológico de
original
calidad
birds, and
humana
it's
que
also
conecta a
part
dos
of
áreas
the
naturales protegidas
biological
dentro del
corridor
país,
that
brindando
connects
conectividad a
to
2 millones de especies.
protected areas in in this region.
Bueno, además, San Nicolás de los
In
Montes
addition, San
cuenta con una
Nicolás de
belleza
los
natural
Montes
muy
has
impresionante.
an amazing
Numerosos
natural
ríos con aguas
beauty,
turquesas,
rivers
gratuitas
with
que podemos
turquoise
observar en el
water,
cañón,
with
que
the
es el lugar donde
landscape
aparece
that
el
you can
vertedero.
see, the
Tenemos
views
el
from the
mirador
canyon,
Mapochtli, que es el que
the
se ve en la imagen.
Mapochtli Mirador that you can see right here.
Siguiente, por favor. Bueno, ¿qué acciones estamos realizando
What
y
current and
cuáles
future
queremos realizar en un
actions
futuro? Bueno,
are
actualmente estamos
taken
impulsando el monitoreo
are taking
comunitario,
place?
donde
We are
muchas
currently doing the
comunidades se han metido
community
capacitaciones
monitoring.
para monitorear
We
e
are
identificar
train
aves.
the
También se realiza análisis de
volunteers
agua,
to
esto para tener un
monitor
control
and
de tortugas,
identify
para que no
birds
pueda faltar
and
un recurso tan
their
vital como es el
threats.
agua en
We
este caso,
also have
y
water
así las mejores
analysis.
condiciones para la
We
comunidad.
take samples
Igualmente,
and do quality
buscamos
control of
capacitación
drinking
de guías,
water. We
de guías de
also
turismo basados en la
provide
naturaleza
training
a
of
los pobladores.
guides who provide
Esto con el fin
ecotourism
de que se realice de la manera
services.
más responsable y que
So
sea
this
amigable
can,
con el
so
ambiente.
tourism can
También algo importante es
take
la
place in a
conservación
very
biocultural,
responsible manner.
realizando
We do
eventos donde la principal sea la
biocultural
recuperación de
conservation
saberes
through
naturales del
the
Shiwi
creation of
presente en el
biocultural
ejido, así
events
como las
and recovery
tradiciones
of
indígenas.
knowledge of the Shiwi
Y bueno, son
population,
varias las
the First
acciones que
Nation. There are
tenemos en mente
many
en un futuro,
actions that we
incluyendo
have
incentivar la
in mind
investigación
for the future,
científica,
for instance,
la
scientific
restauración de
research,
hábitats perturbados dentro del ejido, mejorar la
disturbed
infraestructura
habitat
como caminos, debido
restoration,
a que
improvement
el
of
ejido
roads because the
cuenta con un
ejido
camino aún no pavimentado,
has
entonces buscamos mejorar
an
la
unpaved
infraestructura,
road, so we want to
tener un mejor
improve the
manejo con la basura,
infrastructure, have
donde alimentos se
a
reciclen
better
con productos relacionados
garbage or
con residuos
trash
silvestres,
management,
aplicando
and apply
agricultura y ganadería regenerativa.
a regenerative agriculture and cattle raising.
Y bueno, queríamos aterrizar todo
We
esto
would
en el
like
tema
to
de hoy, porque
land
estamos hablando de
everything
resiliencia y
in
resiliencia
today's topic.
comunitaria.
We're talking about
Entonces, como les
resilience and
comentaba
community resilience.
la facilitadora
As
Valeria al inicio de todo este
Valeria
webinar,
mentioned at the
realmente hay muchas
beginning of the
definiciones, unos
webinar,
que dependiendo
there
del
are
país
many
damos una
definitions.
definición diferente de
Depending on the
resiliencia,
country,
pero en
we have a
general cuando hablamos de
different
resiliencia la
definition
podemos
of
considerar
resilience.
a largo
When we
plazo.
talk about resilience,
La
we
resistencia nos va a hablar mucho
think of a long-term activity. It's supporting disturbances, but it is the ability to recover after disturbances, fire, forest fire, or anything happening in the ecosystems by providing a central role to the communities and by giving them the governance projects are not better, but also uh, are evolving. So we would like to thank you. We are a growing organization. We started with 3 members. Now we have experts from the film industry to help us with the production of audiovisual aids. And we're very happy to have students like Alan and Jamilet, who's not with us this time, and an expert on ethnobiology to learn us with all the knowledge from the Shui First Nation. And this is our contact information. So thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, guys. We feel very lucky of having you here, sharing all of your insights and the work that you're doing. So thank you so very much for participating in here. And before I let you go, guys, I have one question because we talk about the tools on how you establish the ADVCs, but I am wondering, and they are wondering, if there's or which personal or emotional skills do you use in building these trust-based relationships with these communities or ejidos when you have this approach? Which personal or emotional skills do you use?
Claro, si quieres, contribuyo algo, Alan, y me
Sure.
dices si complementas algo.
Alan, you
Yo creo que
can
algo muy
add to
importante
whatever
es que,
I
por ejemplo,
say.
les mencionaba que nosotros somos
Well,
biólogos
as
de
I
formación
mentioned,
y
we
pasa
are
mucho
both
cuando
trained
son especialistas
biologists,
o cuando son
and
científicos, investigadores,
when people see
que no
scientists,
creen,
researchers, or
hay casos de gente que
specialists,
no se ve como
a
parte,
lot of
¿me
people
entienden? De la
don't
comunidad.
see you as a
Llegan
peer of the
con una
community.
perspectiva
They come in with a
superioridad, ¿no?
very
Entonces, ese no
skewed
es el
perspective,
propósito. Nosotros
feeling
vamos a
even
trabajar como
superior.
pares.
And that's not
Muchas
what we
veces la
do.
gente en la
We're there
comunidad
to work
sabe
as
mucho más que
peers.
nosotros.
The
No son
community tends
biólogos
to
del
be a
todo,
lot
pero
more
saben mucho más
knowledgeable.
de plantas,
They
saben
might
mucho
not
más de
be
animales.
trained
Entonces,
biologists, but
hay
they know
como
a lot
traer esa
more about the
recepción
flora and fauna.
y
And we
también
need
adaptarse,
to
porque hay
work
cosas
with
que a
that
lo mejor en
reflection in
nuestra
mind. We also
formación
need to adapt.
se nos hace
Maybe in
raro.
our
Yo tengo muy
training, we
claro,
might find something
no en San
strange.
Nicolás, pero yo he visto, por
For
ejemplo,
example,
que nosotros
not
en
in
las
San
ciudades somos
Nicolas,
como muy
but
apegados a las
we have
mascotas y
noticed
mi
that in our
perrito se duerme conmigo
cities, in our
y a lo mejor en una
urban
comunidad no
environments,
vamos
we
a ver
are
esa relación,
attached to our
pero es porque
pets.
nosotros estamos
We don't see
proyectando,
that in
por
rural
ejemplo,
communities, but we
nuestra
come in
formación.
maybe
Entonces siempre hay que tener la
projecting
mente abierta,
our own
trabajar pensando que
training and the
somos
way we
pares
live. So we need to come in
escuchando y escuchando
as
y que todas las
peers with an
decisiones que
open
tomemos
mind and
sean con la
always,
comunidad y no
always
para una
listening.
sociedad. No
So
sé
we
si
need
quieras
to make sure
complementar
that we're
algo, Alan.
working for the community.
Bueno, sí,
Alan?
básicamente es eso, tener la mente abierta, no cerrarse a solo nuestras ideas,
We also need
confiar
to come
mucho en
in
la comunidad
again
porque
with an
ellos
open
son
mind.
los que tienen mayor experiencia estando ahí, los que tienen más conocimientos de muchas cosas de ahí.
And we need
Y pues
to
la verdad,
make
a
use of
nivel
the knowledge of the community. They
dentro
usually
de
know a lot more than we do. We need to think about
saber escuchar es muy importante.
adaptation
Creo que
and
hay
being able
varios
to
aspectos
listen.
Dentro de México que puedan ocasionar otras problemáticas que no solo
We need to listen to their problems as well. We need
por
to
perder
listen
a ganado, ellos
to their
utilizan a
problems.
los
For
depredadores,
example,
pero pues
when
eso se
they
preocupa porque
lose
consumen
cattle,
primero.
they kill the
Y con
predators.
esto es pues tener la mente abierta y no cerrarse
And this means that we need
a
to keep an
nuestras
open mind
nuevas ideas, estar abiertos
and not come
a
in with
aprender
our
mucho más.
own ideas only. We need to be open to others'
Thank you so
ideas.
very much, guys, and thank you for these insights because the social dimension is crucial in working towards community resilience. So now we're not going to say goodbye to them. We will be able to ask more questions using the Q&A button for the last section of questions for all of the speakers. But now it's the time of Chris Dibnarin from the US, from for my city. We are going to wait for him to start sharing his slides. He's working in addressing community resilience and also food waste with his awesome project. So thank you so very much, Christopher, for joining us. And the microphone is all yours.
Yes, hi everyone. How is everyone doing today? Hope everybody's doing well. My name is Christopher Dipnine. I am the founder and executive director of a nonprofit in Baltimore, Maryland called For My City. At For My City, we're focused on environmental sustainability primarily through the diversion of food waste. Today, my talk is pretty much about how our integrated approach creates sustainable change led by youths directly from our community. About us, I started For My City in 2018, primarily with a goal of addressing food insecurity through food waste diversion. For most of you who know, food waste is one of the largest components in our landfills. And if we divert just 10% of the food that we already produce without growing any food, without doing anything, we could make some substantial change addressing food insecurity and hunger across our cities and states. Our program primarily focused on the sustainable management of food. Basically, in a nutshell, we rescue food from major distributors that would otherwise be thrown away, and we get it out to families that are facing food insecurity. We don't have a paid board. We don't have a paid executive team. All the work that we do is led by kids from our community through our youth, For My City youth mentorship and job training program. In a nutshell, we hire kids directly from the communities, and they're the ones that are facilitating all the work in our program. I built this organization, and my approach to For My City when it comes to sustainability is basically a four-pillar approach. One is social harmony, which is speaking to people and getting people to buy into what we're doing. Two is economic prosperity, making sustainable decisions based on everyone's income level, which is a huge problem right now. Normally we push sustainability and we're pricing some people out of, even participating. So again, we take a huge focus on economic prosperity, again, making decisions and making programs that are free to or cost effective to our program participants. Environmental stewardship, again, understanding causes and effects that our decisions can make on our environment. And diplomatic cooperation, which is probably the biggest one when we're pushing sustainability initiative, is understanding there's no good or bad guys, that we all need to work together in order to achieve sustainable goals. Together, we can inspire change and build a future that creates better lives. Youth understand in the moment. At For My City, we take an integrated approach to sustainability, one that doesn't force people to choose sides, but help them understand their important impact and how we all fit in the solution. Our youth see realities of food waste, climate pressure, and community needs every day. And instead of overwhelming them, we empower them with tools, structure, and purpose. Understanding becomes a starting point for action. One of the key focus that we drive here at For My City is understanding. We don't make you choose. We don't make it divisive. We try to bring you to the table and hear both sides and communicate effectively the change we want to see happen through our actions. Here in some of the pictures, you see our youth interacting with the elders in our community, right? Our work brings youth and elders together in meaningful conversations. Elders carry the wisdom, which, we all know they're the ones that's been around for a longer period of time. And our youths, we bring the innovation, the technology, and we focus on driving modern solutions, right? One of the things I always say is that what worked in the past may not work now, right? So we have to change the traditional model of how people view sustainability and how people view climate change, the effects that, these negative effects that we have on our environment, and just some programs in general. I saw a comment recently, someone posted in this chat just now that the funding structure is outdated, and that is true. A lot of the programs, a lot of the funding that are focused on supporting these type of initiatives are very outdated. They don't, they don't focus on some of the new challenges or some of the new ideas that's being proposed by this generation right now. So a lot of these things have to be changed if we're going to move progress forward. Something I always say, there's no good or bad players in building solutions. There's only people who need to understand, right? So, there's never good or bad. There are going to be some people that oppose sustainable solutions, but it's really not that they don't want to see them succeed, is that they lack understanding of why these programs need to succeed. So a big part of what we need to do is really boost understanding instead of create division. So intergenerational dialogue plays a big role in that, creating safe spaces where youth and elders can share perspectives, stories, and values. Shared discovery, finding common ground. This is huge. We need to find common ground, and aligned values show authentic conversation, not just you're going to do this and here's how you're going to do it, but building and having authentic real world conversations with people that are in the space that will be required to push these things forward. Collaborative pathways, building solutions together that honor wisdom and embrace innovation. When youth and elders sit down together, we discover that understanding always comes before solutions. The foundation of mutual respect and listening creates stronger partnerships and lasting change. A lot of times we try to push change before we push understanding, and it's very important in order for us to move programs forward. And because we've had so much success at For My City, it's because we've built understanding before we enforce solutions. Youth leading change without disruption. Again, young people today, we're providing meaningful leadership doesn't come from disruption. It comes from contribution. And this is a key factor that I think have really got lost in our generation. We believe that creating disruption, we're contributing. And that's something that, as a nonprofit leader, myself, we need to stop, and we need to focus on creating meaningful contribution and stop being disruptive. There's only one way we can bring people to the table, is by showing them how effective programs and solutions can be. 100% impact over argument. We don't need to argue, right? We need to lead through, measure results, and not create rhetoric that people are going to say, we don't want to participate in that program. So impact over argument is a huge statement that we pride ourselves here at For My City, is we're going to show you how our work is going to be impactful in your lives. And then it's up to you to buy into that or not, right? But we're not going to sit there and argue with you back and forth. We're just going to show you how impact matters. And we've built our solution to focus on that. 365 daily commitment, showing up consistently day in and day out to serve our communities. This is huge. It's not sustainability or building climate or effective programs doesn't mean that we're going to do it just in the summertime or we're going to do it when it's convenient to us. We have to be 100% committed to our solutions and effectiveness of our solutions day in and day out. And then one united purpose, our community working together towards sustainable change. Again, I've said it over and over. There's no good or bad guys in this space. There's just understanding. So we all have to work together in order for us to succeed. I will say, if the world explodes, everyone is gone, not just the 50% that was trying to save it. So it's everybody has to understand cause and effect. Our platform, the platform is built. Now we just need doers. At For My City, we've rescued and distributed over 315 million pounds of food since I launched this organization in 2018. In 2018, a homeless person got killed in front of me. I was driving down the road and an impaired driver killed a homeless person in front of me. That really spiraled my life. I saw how, people had very limited care for other people in life. And I started driving around just interacting with homeless people and serving them food from local restaurants that I would rescue. As I started doing this, I realized how much food waste there was in our country. And I wanted to build a system that was closed loop. So phase one, we rescue food. So we work with major distributors from your brand names like Amazon to your major farms and produce distributors to rescue food that they would otherwise be thrown away. Phase two is we feed the hungry. We've rescued and distributed over 315 million pounds of food since I launched this organization. This is all food that would otherwise be going to waste. Phase three is what else can we do with food waste? We've built our own line of biodegradable products utilizing food waste. And then phase four is composting technology, where we've turned food waste, we've created composting technology that turns food waste into usable soil within a 24-hour cycle. And we're the first nonprofit in the US to have the largest indoor composter capable of turning food waste into soil in a 24-hour cycle right here in Baltimore City, Maryland. The beauty about our program, it's all run by kids from the community. I'm happy to say we have 18 employees, and every single one of them came through our food lines at one point, and we've hired them and brought them in to continue the work at For My City. And as we're looking to open our second and third locations within the state of Maryland, every single position, again, will be filled directly from youths in our community. So real impact tracking, everything with For My City is tracked through our mobile app. So participants can see in real time how much food they're saving by participating in our program, how much money they're saving by participating in our program. They can see real-time environment impact based on their CO2 impact. They can see how much food waste they've composted. They can see their volunteer hours. It's all driven through our For My City app, all tracked through our For My City app. So real-time, people are seeing the impact, and our youths can actually see in real time how many families they're serving. For instance, today's our Thanksgiving Day giveaway at our sustainability hub here. Since we open at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. before our lunch break, we've served over 300 families just daily today so far. The youths can show and interact with the elders and show them the impact right on their mobile app. So again, families can see their contributions in real time. Youth-run composting technology, I said it before, we have created cutting-edge technology, all facilitated by our youths here in our program. For instance, our youth that maintains our composting machine and runs that program is 19 years old. And when you heard me say earlier that we have old mindset or very old traditional thinking in this space, the youngest that someone could be certified as a composter to run a facility like ours is 21. So we have a 19-year-old that cannot technically get certified under the old parameters of these programs. So these are things that For My City we're fighting for, and we're trying to challenge and change. We have a 19-year-old that's been running our program since he was actually 16, right? So, these are things that we want to push and change the narrative that youths cannot lead these programs. When at For My City, they're doing it right now. Hands-on workforce training. Like I said, we built our For My City youth program is built from kids age 16 to 23, and they're the ones facilitating every aspect of our operations, from rescuing the food to distributing the food to even contributing to how we build and execute our mobile app. And daily community service. Operating our programs show them that they can create the change directly in the communities that they live in because they're serving families right from the communities that they were born into. Youth bridging generational gaps. Youth are the bridge between generations. They listen carefully to elders, honoring tradition, wisdom, and cultural knowledge. They understand the struggles and realities of today, leaving them firsthand, and they use technology and innovation to carry out our community forward into a sustainable future, right? This is how generational gaps close. This is how communities align around shared values. This is how sustainability becomes a shared journey rather than a divisive debate. One is to listen. Youth honor elder wisdom and community experience. Understand, recognize today's challenges with fresh perspective. Unite, build solutions that include every generation, and innovate, apply technology and creativity to timeless problems. When every voice is valued and every generation is included, we don't just build programs, we build a united path forward towards long-term sustainability. Before we wrap up, just want to highlight some of our youths. Kira, the one to the left, she's been with me since she was 15 years old when I launched our program. She's now 19. She's learned by participating in our program to now speak fluent Spanish because we have a very mixed demographic that comes through our facility. She was born here in the United States, so she's learned to become bilingual, and she handles 99% of our administrative tasks for my city here at 19 years old. And Tavion, which is in the middle, has been running our composting program since he was like 15 or 16 years old. And he operates and maintains all our composting technology, including our trucks and our $250,000 composting machine that's on site here, as far as running it, maintaining it, and creating a good quality soil that's UMRI certified. And with that said, I will stop sharing and thank you for listening to my presentation today. To learn more, you can go to formycity.us. That's my website. You can follow us on Instagram at formycity.us is our social media handles to learn about more about what we're doing, and feel free to reach out anytime if you'd love to learn or talk to me about anything related to For My City and what we're doing here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate your time and energy in sharing all of the insights For My City. That was awesome. And I would like to start the Q&A section. Just remember that by hitting the Q&A button, you can ask a question for any of the speakers that we have today. And I would like to start with Chris because we just finished your presentation. And I would like to know in which roles or experiences or activities you have seen that young people thrive the most For My City.
I can't say they all thrive in their respective way. How we take our For My City approach when I bring them on to our youth mentorship program. So we have a For My City youth mentorship program, and when I bring them on, I ask them most what they're passionate about. So if they're passionate, like for instance, Kara is passionate about administrative work. She wants to do that. So I support her in those type of tasks. But then we also branch them off to learn additional tasks like forklift driving, like even DOT inspections where they can go out and inspect our trucks, right? But we try to tailor our program to firstly what they're passionate about, because that's where the connection lies. And then two, we try to help them on areas that they feel that they need assistance with, or areas I feel like they need development on that they may not be confident in speaking. So like for some of our youths, they don't like public speaking. So we challenge them to go out into the communities. And when we have, classes or daily forums, they're the ones that have to stand up and better themselves in public forums. But when it comes to our youth, I would say the energy and the enthusiasm to learn is always the number one thing I get excited about when engaging our youth participants.
Perfect. Thank you so very much for that, Chris. Now, I would like to address a question for Mariana, if that's possible. I would like to ask which monitoring tools do you use, or if you have a way to supervise the advancement of the ADVCs?
Sí, claro, muchas gracias. Como
Yes,
San
thank you
Nicolás,
so much.
ahorita hablando de San Nicolás, es
Well,
una zona
now
cultural de
we're going to be
actividades, el
talking about
monitoreo
San
está
Nicolas.
especializado
San
para esto.
Nicolas
Entonces,
is a
a los
very
voluntarios se
diverse
les enseña y
bird
se les otorga
population.
que aprender a usar
So we monitor
binoculares,
birds
se
to
les
use
otorga celulares,
binoculars
super celulares de
and
campo, que son
mobiles, field
pues
mobiles,
más pesados y para
who
su uso y
are
para que no vayan a romper
thicker,
sus celulares,
so they
para que
do
hagan
not have to use
también
their own mobiles.
bioacústica, de que
And
hagan un camino,
bioacoustics, for instance, if
escuchan las
they
aves
take a
y
road, they
puedan
listen
detectar la
to the
especie.
birds and they can detect
También se les
the
enseña
species.
y se
We
les enseña, pero ellos
also
también saben
teach
mucho porque
them,
es
but
su
they also
zona
know a
que han
lot
vivido toda la
because
vida.
that's the area where they have lived all their
Identificar lo que
lives.
ven con guías,
We
también se
teach
les
them
da
what
cámaras de
to
largo
identify what
alcance.
they see with their guides.
En el caso que
We
nosotros
give
hacemos de
them
mamíferos, pues hacemos mucho fototrampeo con cámaras trampa, que son estas cámaras
cameras,
que se
and
ponen en el
we
árbol y cuando pasa el
use
animal
photo
enfrente
tramp
detectan
cameras,
movimiento y
and
toma
the
fotografías
animal passes
o
by
video.
and pictures are taken, and sometimes video.
Thank you so very much for that, Mariana. Now I have another question for Alisa. And I would like to, well, we had two questions. I am going to ask these questions at the same time because one is really short. The first question is, do you have a program in Fort Smith Northwest Territory? And the second one is, are there opportunities for youth who are interested in exploring their passion for these community projects, but they lack the depth to the technical depth to learn and contribute with FES?
Yeah, so for the first question there, we do, so our program is all across the country. So we fund and support youth leaders who are in any community and any province in the country. So that would include anything in the Northwest Territories. We have a couple of projects that we're working with there at the moment, and a project that is based in Fort Smith would definitely be eligible to become like a partner and a participant in our programs. We don't have anyone based in Fort Smith, but we like our programming is virtual and touches everywhere. And then for the second question regarding kind of the level of technical depth or knowledge to be able to be engaged with FES. So we have a bunch of different granting streams and programs and services for exactly that reason, to be able to work with youth who are at any stage in their journey as a community leader, as someone who's developing a climate project. So we have a program, for example, that if a young person wants to attend a conference or an event in a different region in the country, but they don't have the means to like financially to be able to attend the event, then we'll support them to be able to go. So, or, even just a pilot idea funding, a couple hundred or a couple $1,000 for their project that they might want. So that's exactly what we're trying to do, is get leaders who are new in the space and to support people at any stage of their journey. So more advanced projects, but then also brand new projects and brand new leaders, and it's their first time organizing something, and we want to support those ideas as well.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for that. Now I have a question for you all. You can take turns to raise your hand if you want to go ahead. But this question asks if you have data which percentage more or less have or show, I'm sorry, which percentage more or less of youth below 30 show an authentic interest for the protection of the environment?
I mean, I'll go. I feel like most youths now are very aware of environmental sustainability as a whole. This has been a talking point for the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years. And I feel like youths right now, the challenge is that they feel like they're being not listened to. I think that's the bigger challenge facing youths right now in this space. But I do feel like most youths in today's society are involved or want to get involved in some type of sustainability initiative.
Thank you so very much, Chris. So, Mariana, we go
Si
ahead with you.
puedo profundizar. Muchas gracias. Muy
I would
cierto
like to
lo que dicen,
elaborate on that. It's true what Christopher
También
says.
quiero
I
profundizar
completely
que
agree. But I would like
la
to
juventud
say
siempre ha
that
sido
the
la que
youth
mueve
has
los
always
movimientos sociales,
been
la verdad,
the
desde que los
ones
inician.
triggering the social
Y bueno, por
movements.
ejemplo, yo en el
And
caso de México
for
sí
instance,
tengo
in
una cifra más o
Mexico,
menos,
I have
hablando de plataformas
this
digitales,
figure
porque sabemos que ya es un nuevo
on
medio
digital
pues, de
platforms
comunicación de los
because
jóvenes.
this is a new
A una
means of
encuesta digital se
communication
hizo más o menos el
for the youth
80% de,
specifically.
me parece,
80%
de
of
25 a 35 marcaron que
80%
tenían
from
un
20
interés
to
alto en la
35
acción
said that
colectiva
they had
ambiental y más o
a
menos un
they,
tercio
that
de
were
esas
very much
personas,
interested in
pero aquí ya
environmental
incluiría creo
issues,
que hasta los
and
40,
1/3 of those
marcaba que
people
han hecho acciones
said
de llevar
that
estas
have
propuestas o
taken
estas
actions of
preocupaciones hacia una figura
talking
política.
to a political figure about their concerns,
Thank you,
environmental
Mariana.
concerns.
Alisa, is there something you
Uh,
would like to add
and
to this question?
I think that yeah, both of my panelists covered it very well, but I mean, yeah, the statistic that I shared is that we know that 74% of young Canadians want to be socially engaged. And I think that what we've learned through our time of working with young people is, and this is like to Mariana's point as well, is that young people are leading social movements, and a lot of kind of the channel that they're going through when we're talking about social movements right now is the intersection of the climate movement and like social justice and all of these things and working intersectionally across these issues. So I think when we talk about, this portion of youth who want to be socially engaged and civically engaged, climate is really a big focus for a lot of these young people.
Thank you so very much for your answers. And there's so many other questions, but I will invite the public to reach out directly to our amazing speakers if you want to learn more about their work. And right now I am going to pass the microphone and camera to Julie and Michaela for some more information. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Anna Valeria. Et je vais continuer en français. Je vais laisser la parole dans quelques minutes à ma collègue Michaela, mais juste avant, je voulais dire un petit mot
Thank
pour
you very
remercier
much. I am
toutes
going
les
to
personnes
pass the
participantes,
floor
nos
to Michaela,
panélistes, nos
but
speakers,
before
mes
that, I
collègues
would
aussi,
like to thank
Anna
all the people
Valeria
that
pour la
participated, the
facilitation,
panel
qui va faire un petit peu
members,
l'affaire
and
dans
my
quelques minutes.
colleagues, Anna
Peut-être
Valeria,
dépasser
for
quelques minutes
facilitating
aussi, que vous
this
sachiez si vous pouvez
webinar.
rester avec nous.
And these will
Aussi,
we
on
will
aime
take
toujours
a
recevoir vos
couple of
commentaires,
more
donc ma collègue
minutes.
Éléonore
And
va
we are
mettre
always
un
very
code
happy
QR à
to hear
l'écran
from you, to
avec un
hear
sondage en fait. Donc
your
n'hésitez pas
comments,
à
and
le
we're
scanner et à
going
nous
to
donner vos
add a
commentaires sur nos
QR
journées
code.
d'engagement jeunesse. On aime
Please scan
s'améliorer.
it and give
Et aussi pour vous dire,
us
Anna
your
Valeria, donc non
opinion
seulement a
about
facilité
this session. We want
ce
to know how
webinaire,
to
mais va aussi
improve these
préparer un
sessions.
résumé
I would
des
like to
échanges en
thank
fait
my
qui ont
colleague for
été
facilitating
partagés
this
avec nous
webinar,
aujourd'hui et les belles
but
questions qui ont été posées
also
aussi à nos
for
panélistes. Il
preparing
sera publié sur la page web
this
de la commission cet hiver
exchange of knowledge, the
2026. Donc n'hésitez
different
pas, vous enverrez le lien,
questions,
mais n'hésitez pas à aller
and the
consulter la
information will
page.
be
Et puis un
published
dernier petit mot
on
pour vous dire qu'on
the
continue aussi les
website, will
efforts
be
d'engagement
posted on
jeunesse
the
à la commission.
website. Please
Il y
don't
a notre
forget
programme
to go
Génération
to
qui donne de l'environnement
the
qui vient d'être
CEC
lancé. C'est un
website.
programme d'un
We
an de
have
mentorat. Il y a un financement de démarrage aussi. On a
the
parlé du
youth
financement aujourd'hui.
generation
Donc voilà,
program.
n'hésitez pas à aller jeter
We
un
have
œil.
already
La date
talked
limite est
about
le 4
funding.
février. Donc
So
vous avez le temps d'aller
please
explorer ce
go
programme
to
pour
the
savoir s'il vous
CEC's
correspond. Et
website,
puis
and
restez
we
à l'affût
hope
de
you
nos
have time
événements,
to explore
nos
this
activités. On est
program, the
toujours
youth
ravis de pouvoir
engagement
échanger avec
program,
vous et de
and
vous
please
présenter de
um,
belles personnes et de beaux projets comme ceux qui ont été présentés
look
avec
at
vous aujourd'hui.
our
Je vais laisser
future
maintenant
events.
Michaela
We
dire un
are
petit mot
very
aussi.
happy
Merci.
to present if projects as the ones we presented today, more projects like this. So now I'm going to pass the floor to my colleague.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Julie. First, I would just like to thank all of our speakers for your amazing and very inspirational work. And I just wanted to point out a few things that I heard across the presentations that have really stuck out as being very important across all community resilience work. And the first thing is to identify community needs. All of the groups we heard from today worked very closely with communities to identify needs and then figure out how to best meet those needs. And the other thing I think is just incredibly important is having a living wage for people that are doing community work. And we heard that multiple times today. But I think it's really exciting to see this work coming from a place of shared values and going on a journey together for discovery and innovation, where every voice is valued. And so I hope that all of us can carry these insights forward and also these principles in doing community work. And thank you all so much. And over to you, Ana Valeria.
Thank you so very much, Michaela. Thank you to everyone for giving me the opportunity to facilitating this awesome webinar. To all of the amazing speakers, you are awesome. I invite all the public to keep following their work. And I want to thank you to all of the people who participated. Please, if you want to share your feedback, there is this QR code on the screen so you can share your thoughts about these kind of projects and webinars. I think that after this presentation, I feel very inspired. I hope that the youth feel more sustained and supported, and I invite older people who has more power and this ability to mentor youth to help them to give this support because they have this awesome power, energy, fresh ideas to accomplish great things towards community resilience. So thank you so very much. You can also follow me in my LinkedIn social media. And thank you, CEC. Remember that the CEC is for all of you and it's a great platform to connect, to learn more. And we'll see each other in hopefully another project. Thank you. And yes, keep working towards community resilience. Bye bye.